It's the only way to be sure.
I want you to rest well, and a month from now, this Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Welcome to Inside Your Screen. I am joined with Brendan Horgan, and we were talking about all things Snowpiercer. It's Series 2, Episode 1, The Tale of Two Trains. Brendan, let's talk about the overall first of all. We'll get into questions and predictions as we did in the first series. What were your initial thoughts on the first episode?
Loads and loads and loads to take in. Much like the kind of the finale episodes of it last season, really fast paced. The story moves really quickly. It develops really quickly. It does cut from scene to scene, but that's not a complaint because it worked season one. It's working so far. I don't know what to make of it because there's so much to process. It was good. I liked the introduction of Wilford. I liked the introduction of Big Alice, or seeing inside Big Alice. We got a slight wish from season one, at the end of season one, where we were like, we want to see a few more carriages, and we did, even in Snowpiercer, even though they were empty containers, just empty carriages, but we got to see some empty carriages, so we got a couple of more new carriages. But I don't know what to make of it. It was a lot to process. Fun.
Okay, so we pick off directly where season one left. So the revolution has happened. The tailies have taken control of Snowpiercer, but that is very short-lived when obviously Wilford and Big Alice, the train that he's in, catches up, snatches onto them from behind. Make of that what you will. Innuendos aplenty. And there's a kind of standoff where we find out that Melanie's daughter, Alexandra, comes to the door and she says, "Hey, here's my list of demands. Who the hell are you guys? Blah, blah, blah." So we know that there's going to be like a standoff and whatnot. And it was quite surprising to me that then she gave like a list of demands from Wilford. But the list of demands were just very items that you would say, we take for granted maybe. Like, there was potatoes and fruit and veg and like bottle of scotch and morphine and stuff. Well, maybe not the morphine unless you're that way inclined every weekend. But it kind of seems to me that like the train itself has probably had its kind of on its last legs, if you will. And they know that Snowpiercer with its 900 and whatever carriages will probably have that. So then we kind of move on. So as Leton and all the others are going on this like chicken run, figuratively speaking and literally speaking.
What did you think of that? I liked that. Kind of, because rather than this nonsense, you are expecting this big standoff, this big kind of, we are the new train. When it was just like, nope. Get me some fruit and veg and some nice whiskey in the next 12 minutes or you're all dead. Cheerio, shut the door.
Well, I don't know. It kind of sounded like a weakness to me. Like they don't have their own kind of fresh produce and everything like that. But
clearly not.
Yeah, but I mean that might come to like the question segment later on.
They got some serious, decent, fresh product by the looks of it.
Yeah, but I think that what they're dealing with in the Big Alice is like R&D. And we'll get to that later on as well. But like, it seems to me that the train and its occupants have been put through the kind of ringer, if you will. What they haven't had as much maybe as a good experience that the Snowpiercer crew had or the Snowpiercer, staff have had. And there's a few little tidbits of that where you see like certain staff members and they have like very scarred faces. And you have, obviously the ice giant, the Game of Thrones ice giant, Icy Bob, but we'll get to that later as well. So to me, the kind of the point of, that was more of a kind of plot device of like, hey, you got 20 minutes to get us our stuff. Otherwise, you're all going to freeze to death. So
I like that.
Yeah, it's the kind of classic, clock ticking. You have to get our demands. We've got no time to negotiate. You get us this, and then maybe we can talk. And from a kind of pacing issue from the first episode as well, it kind of shows that, Leton, that was a little great. I just thought that was a really great little character insight there, where Leton, he's obviously led the revolution. And in the kind of the second series, in the first episode, like he's still like he's giving jobs to people, like this list. He's like designating jobs, like, hey, you do that, I'm going to run over here, we're going to do this because we need to do this within 20 minutes, otherwise everyone's going to be dead. So that was a great little kind of like, hey, remember, hey, because obviously in a new series you have to kind of reestablish who the characters are, but you do it in a kind of way that's not too on the nose. And I just thought that was a really cool way to kind of remind the audience that, Leton, however much long he's going to be in charge, but he's in charge at the moment. He's designating the kind of list of people, and they all run off and do their separate. And there's a kind of unity behind that as well, which I did appreciate. Although the revolution has kind of torn Snowpiercer in half, if you will, there's a kind of uniting force behind that as well. Like everyone's now like, right, we're all in this together. And that's once again one of the kind of themes of this episode, I think, is like, you know what? The first series was all about Melanie and Leton and their kind of like internal war. Now we've got like the big bad. It's Mr. Wilford. He's back, sort of thing. So we know this, and so Snowpiercer has to unite as a kind of one, really. So yeah. So they go on that, and I did like the fact as well that the tail is no longer the tail, now it's the border.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Checkpoint Charlie in that kind of respect, And then we get to see Melanie's daughter. They get reunited in this episode. How did you feel about that, Brendan?
Well, as the episode went on, it kind of developed a little bit. It was a little bit predictable. There wasn't, again, not much to go on. So they meet angsty teenage daughter who's been abandoned, who mum now says, you didn't abandon you, this is what happened, and she kind of remembers. And then you've got the scene where she visits Melanie in the cells, and it's kind of like, what was it like outside? And it's kind of the intrigue, and then that kind of built to the kind of crescendo of the episode where you have the kind of, oh, look how smart mum is. Look how cool mum is. And mum's outsmarted Wilford, and maybe everything Wilford says. I think there's a predictable storyline going there where it's the slow development of daughter slowly getting back and slowly turning against Wilford and going with her mum after all these years apart.
It's inevitable, really, isn't it? Like, let's be honest.
I hope it's not. Again, I always like to be shocked, and I always like the unexpected. So it would be really cool if that wasn't the case, I was I'll be totally honest with you, in this episode, and I'm expecting it to happen at some stage because it's just the way shows go in general. I was expecting a shock kill in this episode. And I'm really hoping that maybe our shock kill in series 2 is, even though she's an awesome character, but it's Jennifer Connelly, and it'd be awesome if the daughter killed her.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was going to get to that sort of thing. Like, we're introduced to a load of characters that we saw from the first series. You've got Ruth, you've got Leton, you've got Pike.
Sorry to interrupt, but Beth Till, at the start of the episode, I was like, she's dead. They're going to kill her off in episode 1. That was my first instinct, I thought, and it didn't happen. So I'm glad, because she's an awesome character.
All the characters are awesome. Like, I mean, I do share your sentiment as well, that I was expecting one of the, because we're introduced to new characters as well from Big Alice.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking, hey, the ship's not big enough to, have all these kind of characters in there. There's going to be someone. I think they're delaying they're delaying the inevitable. There will be, I think, a few shock deaths that come forward in the next few episodes. However, it's one of those ones where I think it's like, they're building up all these characters so you grow to love them. And of course, that's the best way to, when you do kill one of the characters off, is like, if you have such empathy towards them and you grow so attached to them that when they do die off, you're like, oh man, that's not, oh no. But like, yeah, I was kind of surprised in this episode that there wasn't a death. Maybe next episode, I think, well, hey, we'll get to that. This is just the overview part at the moment. So, I forgot to mention, obviously, at the very beginning, Melanie was outside of Snowpiercer, she basically went under the carriage of Big Alice. She set like a charge, as well as making sure that the train wouldn't decouple in that kind of respect. Then she got back on board. She suffered some minor injuries, but then she's basically a prisoner now on Big Alice. She got some frostbite on her shoulder, and we're talking about new characters. Two new characters that really intrigued me were the doctors, the scientists. I believe the Howards.
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea of their name.
I'm pretty sure it was
Hedward.
Hedward. Yes, Hedward.
Yeah.
So it appears, I don't know if they're like brother and sister, if they're related in some way, or if they are married, but there was like, once again, this was one of those kind of episodes. A lot was happening, but there was like there was a lot of nuances, and when you were introduced to them, they had like this synchronicity. Why is my mind synchronicity? Yeah. I don't know why my mind just went there, but synchronicity. Yeah, they had this kind of where they were like finishing each other's sentences. Where there was a kind of very, I don't know if you called it sort of thing, but when Melanie's in the chair. One of the he goes to like her pocket to get like a tongue presser, and she goes to his pocket to get like a flashlight or something along those lines. They kind of had this like ballerina sort of like style dance to their dialogue and their mannerisms that I kind of thought to myself, like, I don't know why, but I'm just really intrigued by these couple, and I kind of get the feeling that they're going to be integral in this series to regards to the R&D with what's been going on in Big Alice. Because then we get another two characters that I think were quite prominent in this episode. You get Kevin, who's basically the kind of the Ruth character of Big Alice, the kind of hospitality man. And then you get you get Icy Bob, who basically we need to cover Icy Bob right now. Okay.
Seriously,
go for it.
Is that where they're going? Is that where they're going with the series?
It looks like it.
Because you missed that when you were talking about the two doctors as well, where obviously they've got this. Did you not see a kind of crazy kind of Dr. Frankenstein, Mad Professor definitely. Comedy element to those two doctors?
Yeah, a little bit. That's what I loved about it.
So did I. I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed that, but having stayed kind of, I think we saw Kevin a little bit earlier, but if we didn't, but like the whole kind of we've got this. What did they say? We call it the gloopy stuff.
Yeah, the synthetic gel.
That heals wounds, and there's no scars. So they've on a train, right? That's 40 carriages long. They've reinvented the wheel, and they've created Frankenstein, who's
genius knows no bounds. Brendan, genius knows no bounds.
They've created Frankenstein, who's
impervious to the cold, apparently, yeah, and
is like the size of the Thing. That's what he looked like, but just grayer. The Thing.
To me, it kind of looked like they kind of watched Game of Thrones and they loved the thought of the ice giants, and they were like, we want to get our ice. You don't like that?
Don't like it. If they're going on to supernatural type, like, I know it's sci-fi. Don't get me wrong, but this is going into the kind of the realms of, I didn't like it, the realms of kind of creating a monster and no.
Well, maybe because remember in series 1 we were discussing the fact, when they're all put underneath, when they're all put like on ice, basically, when people who have committed a crime, they get put in the drawers and they get fed this drug, and there was that inkling of what's going on with them. What's happening to them, and then when they get like resurrected or when they get taken out of hypersleep or whatever you want to call it, they have like withdrawal symptoms from this drug and everything like that. Do you think this could factor into these two doctors and what they've been doing?
Possibly purely based on the fact that they've got weed on board. That was my kind of joke earlier about, the fact that you were saying they're obviously struggling. Well, no, they've got some pretty fresh produce in regards to the herb on board. Nice smoking sessions going up over there. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're growing weed on board and other types of drugs, because it was suggested that they did have more drugs because that was how Pike enticed them to open the door again. That they're creating everything in a lab, or it's not.
Well, yeah.
So I mean, that's the weird part about it, is like it was just that it's like they've got the best. Here's a big bag of weed in a Wilford branded bag. Yeah, did you notice that it was packaged?
Oh yeah, it was like a packaged
like a big. There's an ounce of weed. The Wilford, what brand? That's Wilford, mate. Trust me, the best smoke you get. But they can't grow carrots. Like what? And they've also got Frankenstein on board. These are the elements of the episode I really didn't like.
Well, so for example,
what's his name? Bob, Icy Bob. Right, Bob must die very soon.
I'm sure he's gonna.
And that be the end of Frankenstein. I get that, and that's what you alluded to that earlier. With a lot of them have scars, so obviously Wilford's being brutal to them. He's sending them out into the cold, but he's because he's got these mad scientist doctors there. They can heal their wounds, so they go they're doing all this for Wilford, and Bob just went completely over the top and just kept on going out, and he just loved that fresh air.
Yeah, so I mean, like going back to the overall kind of arc of this episode. So Melanie is taken hostage, for example. She doesn't really have any choice in this. Leton's left with dealing with the kind of insurrection, if you will. He makes a kind of valid point where he knows that from what Melanie said beforehand, that he doesn't care. Like Wilford doesn't care about anyone really. He's a narcissist at heart. So they have to make the first strike. There's a kind of mini kind of breach where they try to overtake Big Alice.
And then they send out Big Bob.
And then they send out Big Bob to kind of handle it, and he does. He just kind of like pushes a lever, and all the kind of.
And hold on, there must be two Bobs, because old Beanie says a line about which Bob do we send. So, oh fuck.
Well, I think that was just a throwaway line, and like there's obviously a staff member called Bob, and he's like, that was just like a. Who do you think? Like, who do you think's going to deal with this? But then because of the insurrection, Wilford's like, fuck these guys. I'm going to put the anchor down, and that's the whole point. The whole kind of that atomic war, the Cuban Missile Crisis part of it is more like Snowpiercer may be like 94 carriages long or something like that, but Big Alice has the ability to put the anchor down, as they say, and just stop everything, and within 20 minutes everyone's going to be dead. And
it's 994
and he orders this from big reveal that Alexandra sort of thing, Melanie's daughter, is the engineer of Big Alice.
Was that a big reveal? I
don't really think so, to be honest with you, but they tried to make it out that it was, but I didn't really get that. But like she basically follows his orders. She puts down the anchor. There's a part where there's like a kind of Mexican standoff where Wilford says like, well, you know what? I don't care about these guys. Let's take off the kind of the clamp like vice that we have on them. We'll go back. We'll come back a minute later, 20 minutes later, and they'll all be dead. I can take control of my train again. It's all good. But Melanie has planted a bomb in the decoupling section of the train or whatever sort of thing. So when the daughter does try to do that, it blows it up, and they fuse the two trains together, and that's how the episode ends. The two trains are now fused.
Can I ask a question? I didn't understand that.
Before you ask a question, Brendan, let's go into our next segment, which is called Questions.
Wicked. I don't understand that, mate, because how did the explosion they saw in the distance?
Yeah.
So it didn't happen under the train.
This has been kind of a bit hotly contested with like diehard fans.
So
you remember in like series 1 as well, Like they,
like, and that's not me being that, like, that's even
no.
Like, that's not, you don't need to be like a really close observer. How did the trains get merged together when the explosion took place about 20, it looks like 100 or 200 meters away from the train?
This is where writers back themselves into a certain corner, or they need to make a character look good. And in this respect, they needed to make Melanie look good. Because if you remember in series one, do
No,
you remember
but I'm talking about I understand why they did it. I'm talking about the physical aspect of it, right? On screen, you see Wilford, Melanie, and the daughter in the distance, further down the track, see an explosion happen.
Yeah.
You also see a cut of almost at the merging of these things underneath the train, and then. But where's the explosion take place?
It was underneath the carriage because remember she laid.
But how can they see that out the window?
I'm assuming the flames came up
I'm
the.
actually going to get that up on my phone right now.
Have a little look into that. Have a little bit of research.
It didn't make any sense.
No, there's a big contention with this at the moment, sort of thing, with like hardcore fans, because if you remember in the first series, they had to decouple certain carriages from Snowpiercer, and it was literally pull a lever. You know, as trains do, they'll have the couplings. And then the couplings get, go, and then that kind of thing. This seemed to have like some kind of like Death Star AI system going on underneath the train, and it could only be sorted out by Melanie putting some kind of explosive device underneath, fusing the two trains together. Now,
this sounds really shit for viewers, but if anyone wants to, if you go to, I'm watching it now, and it's just about to happen. There's 3 minutes 50 seconds left, and that's right. I can see an explosion under the train. Okay, right. I got that wrong. I take that back.
It comes from the sort of side, and
yes,
the flames.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Flames move in their kind of scientific way. I think really that was meant to showcase the fact that Melanie was put up against the corner, and she played her like chess piece to say like, hey, you thought you could checkmate me. Fuck you, bitch. I'm checkmating you. That kind of, leaves it on a nice little kind of cliffhanger edge. And also, there's that kind of starting sort of trickling of the daughter, respecting her mother because she would never have thought of it, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's how I felt that kind of went in that respect. I think the science behind it, I think you're totally right. Like, there's a lot of stuff that could be like, nah, don't know about that. Like, really? But there you go. So my first question to you, Brendan, is what do you think is the story behind Big Alice? What do you think? Because the fact that they're like asking for food and stuff.
He told you, didn't it? It was a service train that when she abandoned
him.
But
they retrofitted it.
They've
obviously made it into like a scientific sort of. This goes back into the kind of.
They've upgraded it. Which just seems ridiculous. But what was the term? Because I'm not going to lie. When Wilford explains what happened with Big Alice, I rewound it back and put the subtitles on to see exactly what wording he said. Because I was like, what he said? We made Big Alice semi-idle. He said something like that. Semi-idle, and then
they were hanging out in a kind of like
we hid out in a cave or a bunker, is that no?
Where do you think Thomas the Tank Engine goes when he needs to get refilled? Right, he goes under like a little bridge. The Fat Controller comes along.
Do you not see the floor?
Pumps his load in there, and it's all good.
Do you not see the floor?
Yeah, of course I do.
The concept is that the only way people can survive is on this train that generates heat and keeps them warm. If they could survive in a bunker, it would have been a lot easier just to build a load of bunkers than a train that travelled around the world.
But this could be a kind of question as to, because Melanie got a snow sample because she saw a snowflake.
We have
the temperature is dropping, maybe. So you could explain it in a kind of way that the temperature's not as bad where they were.
No, because you have to retrofit Big Alice at the start, no?
Well,
You don't get on Big Alice.
It's been 18 years. It's been 18 years. I think in this episode, even Leton says at the very beginning, it's on the eve of the 19th revolution. So they've been going for like nearly 19 years. And if you have like some freaky Frankenstein doctors that have like the intelligence of, you know, Einstein or whatever, and they can sort of retrofit their train, I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that's just going to be like a throwaway line. I don't think they're gonna go too deep into the kind of mechanics of how they survive for so long. If they can say like, they won't. No. They won't. Of course they won't.
We know. He told us. He said, yeah, we found a cave. We
dug in like ticks. We're good.
We were so lucky that when we got to this bunker, that there was all this new modern technology and steel and resources available for us to upgrade the train. We were really lucky. Thanks, Mel.
So next question, where do you feel that Ruth's loyalty lies? Because in series one...
The train.
Well, you say the train.
Ruth,
what does that mean?
Ruth is the only person on that train with any integrity.
Do you think?
She is stuck to her morals from day one. She is stuck to herself. She's never veered off path.
I disagree with you there, Brent.
She's never veered off path, not once. All the other characters have. Leighton changes his mind every fucking week. I mean, at the end of last season, Leighton didn't want anything to do with his baby mama, and now he's protecting her.
I think you've been brainwashed a little bit. Do you remember Ruth in the first series, in the first episodes?
What, when she was doing her job and following orders, which is exactly what she's doing now with Leighton. Leighton pretty much said at the start of the episode, he was like, I need you to kind of look after hospitality.
When Wilford, the owner of the train, is inevitably going to come on board, will she basically bend the knee to the new king? Or will she
100,000,000%, because Wilford
even if those his demands are not in the interest of the train.
Remember, I think Ruth is, if they kill off Ruth, I'm gonna be fucking fuming.
I don't think they'll kill off Ruth.
Right, so if anyone who's listening doesn't know, this has been greenlit for season 3. So we 100% know we're getting another season of Snowpiercer, right? So we can actually think ahead. You know, we're not going to go over the top, but we can hope ahead for the future. Ruth must remain on the train until the the end of Snowpiercer. Whenever they decide this is the last episode, Ruth must be in that last episode. She must. Because her story is fantastic. Remember, she's going to have a lot more loyalty to Wilford, because Wilford literally picked her up. Remember the story of how Wilford came to her B&B, and so there is a history there of him saving her, and him choosing her because she has pride in what she does. But
do you think there'll be a subtext where we're going to see and they get it on?
I think so, yeah. I think she's going to be all over Wilford, yeah.
Sean Bean.
Possibly this season, yeah.
Sean Bean and Ruth getting it on in Snowpiercer.
Yeah, so, Sean Bean.
I don't know whether to kind of chuckle or retch, to be honest.
What?
Well, the kind of thought of them having a sex scene doesn't really,
Each to their own.
Okay, and now we're going to get into predictions. So this is predictions maybe for the next episode, or predictions, or unless you have another question, Brendan.
Nah, do I have another question in regards to just what did you think of Sean Bean? What did you think of Wilford?
I thought he exuded that kind of person who's always said, like, he's a person in my eyes that no one's ever said no to him.
He delivered for me. The way I would describe Wilford is he delivered exactly what I expected him to deliver.
Yeah,
and that's not a criticism. That's
no. That's
a compliment.
Like, you can see whenever he says stuff, there's like a jagged edge to the undertones of it. I'd like to, obviously it's going to play out as it plays out, but I'd like to find out obviously what happened between him and Melanie before. There's obviously something that happened where she had to take off on Snowpiercer and leave her daughter behind. I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm sure that's obvious for people, but he's there's obviously something more. There's something else that there's going to be something that breaks, that we find out that what he's done. There's something more that he's done to Melanie. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's something else. He's got a few tricks up his sleeves.
Do you not think he's the father? I'm convinced he's the dad of Melanie's daughter.
It's possible.
That's what I reckon. Possible.
I mean, she was his protege. He brought her from, like, what did he say? Like, from pig shit and everything like that. Yeah, you could be right. And that could also... I'll be honest with you, I hope they don't go down that route, only because of the fact that
Do you know something, though? And I'm sure it will be next episode. Do you know what I did? And I don't know why it came out to me, but just because it was so involvement of Melanie's daughter, there was no Miles. Miles wasn't in this episode at all.
No.
Just something to throw out there. I know there's not much to add to that. Really. It was just purely based on, they really did focus on Melanie's daughter, and she's an engineer. That's the big reveal. Maybe that will be episode 2. Maybe that will be kind of like the concept of, we've got a young engineer, and then you've got Miles and what is Melanie's daughter called?
Alexandra, isn't it?
Alexandra, that's it. So Miles and Alexandra are definitely gonna, become pals. Or
it's funny because one of my predictions, it may not be like the next episode or the next couple of episodes, but I feel that, all right, it's going to be obvious that Wilford comes on Snowpiercer. For whatever reason that happens, he comes on board. There's going to be like schisms in Snowpiercer, because, like, we already kind of established that, Leton was all about democracy and creating democracy, and he's had to put that on hold now. I feel that Wilford coming on board will create a kind of Donald Trump style, schism, like what I said before.
Yeah. The concept of Wilford is definitely the concept of divide and conquer.
Oh, yeah. But
100%. He will get on Snowpiercer, and he will cause one hell of a controversy.
There was a scene, I don't like, it wasn't a very pivotal scene, because, as I said, this episode kind of went quite quickly.
Yeah, it's non-stop.
There was a point where Leton was talking in the kind of what's that carriage called? The kind of cabaret carriage.
Is it the midnight? The night?
Yeah, but there's a point where Zara obviously is upstairs, and she's getting like nearly attacked by 2 of the tailies. And then it's kind of revealed, like, she's pregnant, and it's Leighton's son or daughter, or whatever sort of thing. And I kind of thought to myself, I'm wondering why they're kind of putting this in. I think Wilfred's going to find out that Zara's pregnant, and he's going to use that as a kind of chip, like Melanie did in the first series. He's going to use that as a kind of...
it's a weakness, yeah.
Yeah, as a weakness. And I think that's going to happen. I think Wilfred's going to be very tactical in his conquering. I think he's not going to be... We've seen a lot of violence, and we've seen a lot of, like, physical force. I think Wilfred's going to be a man of deception, a conjurer, someone who uses tactics and strategy to kind of overcome his opponents rather than brute force. And I think that's where he's going to go.
Yeah, I'll give you a straight up. This is it's not even a prediction, because it's 100% happening. Pike will side with Wilford.
I think Pike will side. Yeah, I agree with you. I think he will initially. I think he will initially, but then there'll be like this redemptive arc. He's that classic kind of horror character. You hate him, but then in the end he'll turn good, and he'll have like a kind of...
Knowing Pike, that will be his dying moment. Pike will be bad, but he'll sacrifice his life to save Leton or Leighton's baby, or save the train. But even though Pike they'll probably, I hope, because the actor, and what's his name, Tony? You know his name?
Stephen Ogg.
Is such a good bad guy.
Oh, he's so great.
Such a good actor.
There's a reason why he played
Please
Trevor in
give
Grand
us-
Theft Auto 5.
Please do not put him in the fucking drawers like you did last season.
Oh, he was
And
so
please
underused
give
in
us-
the first series.
Please give us 10 episodes.
Yes.
And please make at least 7 of them him a bad guy, because he's the fucking ultimate man.
Could you imagine in an alternative universe where Peyton wasn't Peyton and Pike was Peyton? So Pike was like the main character. I would fucking love that. I think that would be awesome.
Do you know what I really did like as well? And what I liked about it was almost like a cameo. She only appeared for about 15 seconds on screen, but LJ's lost a lot where she's calling out.
I think that's another prediction as well. I think she'll come back and she'll have some kind of,
To quote Brendan Gleeson in The Guard, she's one sick puppy.
Yeah, it was established in the first series that she's a sociopath. She's going to do everything she wants to get into to have power, and she'll use everything. I think, all right, I'll tell you what, we're talking about predictions. I think she's going to be the person who is like Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings. Like, she's going to be one to Wilford to say like, oh yeah, Zara's pregnant. Oh yeah, you need to get to her, sort of thing. Like, you know what I mean? She'll become like Wilford's confidant.
His little rat.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Anyway, Brendan, I think we've spoken enough. We've rambled enough now about Snowpiercer episode 1. Yeah. Was there anything last little comment, sentence?
Just kill Bob next episode.
Bob's going to stay around. I love Bob.
Get Bob off the train. It's ridiculous. Bob. It's stupid. Get Bob
What
off
about
the train.
Bob?
Yeah, chop his head off.
What about Bob? That's a kind of Bill Murray reference that not a lot of people probably get, but there you go.
He's definitely, he's on just an episode 1, series 2. I'm throwing out the 100% guarantee that Bob dies by being set on fire.
No, I completely disagree with you there. I think Bob's in for the long run. He's the big bad. He's the enforcer. He will die, don't get me wrong, and his death may come very quickly, but it won't be by episode 2. You're foolish to think that, Brendan. You're foolish. Foolish.
We can just hope.
There we go. Anyway, Brendan, sign us out in your nice timbre tones that you usually do.
So, guys, if you want to check out any of our stuff, all you got to do is go to Pornhub. Oh, sorry, wrong podcast.
That wasn't that. You sounded like just laid back. You just sounded like you just smoked some.
Oh yeah, I don't know what I was trying to do there. But if you want to listen to anything inside your screen or watch anything inside your screen, first place, check out all our podcasts. We've got, on top of that, we've got movie reviews, game reviews, majorly focusing on independent horror gaming reviews, some really wicked playthroughs for all types of games on our YouTube channel. Just search Inside Your Screen on YouTube and you will find us. If you want to listen to us on the podcast, you can listen to any of the major podcast outlets. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, we're on all the major podcast platforms. So just search once again Inside Your Screen and you'll find us. And if you want to get in contact with us, tell us that, for example, that your opinion on episode 1 of Snowpiercer was absolute dog shit. We want to hear from you. We want debate. We want interaction. We want to have an argument with you, basically. So tune in and check us out on Twitter we are Inside Your Screen, and the your is a UR, so at Inside Your Screen. And we're waiting to hear from you. All our stuff is on all those platforms. Tune in.
Or don't. We're not your fucking parents, so do what you like. But
do what you like. Yeah. You don't have to, but if you want an argument, we're here.
Yeah. All right. On the next time, we'll be episode 2, and we'll see if Wilford gets on the train. Good night, all. Bye.
Inside your screen.